Morning, guys. Happy Friday. A little SmartHER News coffee talk as we start off our weekend. And I'm going to do something a little different today. I want to just do kind of an overview of the week and take a look at the week's news. And something came up when it came to the government shutdown and border security yesterday as I was reflecting on just this past year. And I just wanted to mention something to you that we should really pay attention to when it comes to immigration negotiations and border security. But the first thing I want to start with today is that the Pentagon just identified those that were killed in Syria. And this is one of the most important stories of the week. These are the first Americans that have been killed in Syria in 2019. There have been only 2 Americans killed in Syria in service to our country since 2015. So the fact that we lost 4 Americans this week is very significant. As we're getting the names, and you're not going to see this on our site today likely, I just didn't want to throw in a quote or something short about this. I want to identify each person and give you a little information about each person because I think that helps humanize them instead of just being numbers. But something I want to mention, and this is historic, the first American woman was killed by ISIS in this attack. And we just learned that today. I'm going to show you her picture right here. Stars and Stripes is a great resource for some of these announcements. And they often have the photos first where others do not. So let me just show you. This is Shannon. Shannon was a Navy cryptologist, and she was killed in this blast in Syria, and she's from New York. A cryptologist, interpreter. We're not exactly the work that she did, but she is the first woman American killed by ISIS. And so I wanted to show you the picture that has thus far been published of her. You got to be stuff because it's important that families have some say in what photos go out there. So this is at least the first one we're seeing. Let's hope it's consistent with the other ones that we'll see likely over the weekend. So I think that's really a crucial story to know about this week. Again, significant not only because the number, but the timing. What is the future of America in Syria? What is the way forward? What is the strategy? How are we going to accomplish the mission, and what exactly is the mission? These are some of the big questions that we're continuing to ask. So I want to just break off from that for a moment and concentrate a little bit about what's happening domestically. There's a huge report out today that actually ties into kind of the step back of the week of news that I want to talk to you about, and that is a report that was released by the Inspector General. The Inspector General is like an internal government watchdog group. The Inspector General for all sorts of departments can release reports on any number of things, and they're done without partisanship. It's a look at a certain issue, and the issue that was looked at was children separated at the border from their parents. And the big headlines from this are, and one that you're going to see a lot, is that the government admits that they actually don't have a firm number of how many children were separated. And that's going to sound really shocking because it is really shocking. And part of the reason is that there simply wasn't a system set up. And there was such a high volume of children coming with their guardians or their parents. And although the policy existed in the past that a child could be separated from an adult that breaks the law. You cross the border, you have a legal status. But even in America, let's say I broke the law and I was arrested, the government can take custody of my children because no one is here to take care of them. And so it's not exactly the same policy, but it's a similar policy that allows the government to do this. As you know, the Trump administration put a zero tolerance policy in place in early 2018, meaning if you crossed the border, even if you had a minor with you, you would be arrested. And that minor would be separated from you, not as a matter of the policy, but as a side effect of it, because you are arrested and you will be in prison, right? So that happened mid-year. But I want to back way up because I think there's something that we should kind of chart and remember as we look at not only the report, but what's happening with border security and the government shutdown. So let me bring you back to the State of the Union back in January. Now there's this question about whether or not the State of the Union will take place because of the government shutdown. But the president said something very interesting in the State of the Union last year. And let me just read this to you. He gave 4-pillar plan for immigration that included border security. And I want to read this, what he said. He said, back in January of 2018, the first pillar of our framework generously offers a path to citizenship for 1.8 million illegal immigrants who were brought here by their parents at a young age. That covers almost 3 times more people than the previous administration. There was his little partisan dig, okay? Now, the second pillar fully secures the border. I want to refresh your memory about this. The president during the State of the Union surprised everybody. He said, I'm going to offer citizenship to these so-called dreamers or DACA recipients, deferred action childhood arrivals. These are children that arrived, like these separated children, in the past, maybe didn't even know that they had a legal status and have lived and grown up in America. The Obama administration tried to offer them a way to legally stay in America. That's been tied up in the courts. And so President Trump last year said, this is what I want to do. In exchange for border security, I want to grant this citizenship. Okay, so what happened? Some Republicans didn't like this. They said this was a pathway to amnesty. This is giving away citizenship. This is not what the Republican Party stands for. The Democrats were surprised that President Trump did this, but then said, wait a minute, we want to add more people to this. It can't just be these people, the people that were brought into the country illegally as children. We're going to add in a couple more. That's what we want. Neither side could come to an agreement. That idea goes out the window. In the meantime, you have a huge influx of people coming across the border with children because the previous policy was not, and it wasn't an official written down policy, it was how the law was enforced, said if I arrived with a child, I would not be arrested. So there is an incentive. And so what President Trump and the administration tried to do is say, well, we're going to de-incentivize people from doing that. But the influx of people already coming was at such a high level. And what you see in this report that was issued by the government is that the system was literally overwhelmed. That's not a statement on whether the policy was a good policy or not. It was simply, they don't have a number because there was no system in place. They didn't have an integrative system between someone that's getting arrested and their child that's being separated from them. The good news is from what we see from the numbers we know, most of the children have been reunited directly with their parents. There's about 500 that were reunited with a sponsor or potentially another parent that didn't travel with them. Sadly, there's some children that are still in custody, but they're in custody for a couple key reasons. Either their guardians or their parents had criminal records. There's a background check that the government does. I mean, imagine all that this is going into, the resources you need to put background check before they release the children back to different, whoever's custody. Some didn't pass the background check. Some parents, almost 100 of them for these children, asked that their children not be returned. Think about that. These parents might have been returned to their own country. They might still be here for whatever reason. They're asking the government to keep custody of their children. So this policy was challenged clearly and reversed. So we're not separating children in the same way. The government can still separate children if they think that they're in a dangerous situation. That's what government would do for any of us. And so now here we're at the end of the year where the president is again asking for a border wall. And the reason why I mentioned the State of the Union and why I want to take this step back is now you hear some Republicans, not lawmakers, but these are the voices of strategists, big names like Karl Rove, who used to work for the Bush administration but is often on Fox News, saying the president should reoffer essentially what he did last year at this time and say, I will offer citizenship to a finite number of children in exchange for the border wall funding. It's exactly what he did last year. And force the Democrats essentially to say, no, we want to keep the government shut. We're not going to give you the border wall, and we're not going to do that. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I think it's interesting to watch how things can come full circle. So that's what I want you to pay attention to. It's always good to go back a year ago and see what actually took place. And This was the proposal floated by the White House. Could the White House use its proposal again to offer a break in this sort of debate? I did speak to a few folks yesterday and just asked, do you think Republicans would potentially be open to this? Because again, Republicans weren't open to this before, really, And I think that there's some room for this negotiation. So I think it would be worth just paying attention to seeing if anything like that comes up. Wanted to give you that background. If you would like to check out the full report about the children, we're bullet pointing it for the website. It's one thing that we're struggling with to try to fit on the cards, but I just want to make clear there are those Republicans and conservatives that say, well, the policy of separating children has existed always and forever and ever and ever. The policy of separating a child from a guardian or a parent because there's danger or something that's wrong, of course exists. But the widespread use of the policy is recent, and there's a difference. Also, just one other thing I want to mention, we talk about children separating from parents. Based on the numbers in this report, you're thinking about, sometimes the image in your mind is a toddler, someone very young. Yes, there were very young children that were in the government's possession. It looks like a lot of them were under the age of 13. But when the government's charting children coming across the border, they're talking about anyone younger than 18. The majority of unaccompanied children coming across the border are young male teenagers, not little kids. And so the number of unaccompanied children are in the thousands and thousands and thousands. The number of separated children look to be in the low thousands, but again, that's what the report is telling us, that we don't have an exact number, precise, trustworthy number of exactly how many children were separated from their families. Fascinating report. Take a look at it. Also take a look at our quick quote page on this Friday, but also throughout the weekend, because there is is it a super blood moon? I don't know. I can't keep track of all these blood moons. Blood moon, super blood moon, something like that this weekend that you can check out. So you might look up and be like, whoa, what's that? So I just want to flag that for you as well. More coming on the website over the weekend regarding what's going on overseas in the Middle East and Syria. Thanks again for your support of SmartHER News. Watch this space. We're going to be doing a fun photo shoot today. I'll try to post on Insta stories for you if you're watching on Instagram for us. A little background of some exciting things yet to come. All right, guys, have a great weekend. Don't lose hope. We're going to be here for you at emails this weekend if you'd like us to check out a story at SmartHER.com. Have a great day, guys. I'll talk to you later.